Hey there, my friend. So, have you ever thought to yourself why your photos aren't looking as good as the professionals that you're watching, even though you might be using the exact same camera? I honestly used to feel like this all the time until I discovered these 7 very simple yet highly effective keys that completely changed my photography. And after a decade of shooting, plus having helped over thousands of photographers leveling up their photography, I'm gonna show you, my friend, exactly how you can make your photos stand out. Alright, so key number 1, and the first thing that you need to understand is story. Because that is the emotional foundation of every great photo. I mean, it's basically like the why behind your shot. Why are you taking this photo? What is it that you want people to feel when they see it? Basically, what I'm trying to get to here and say is that a strong story, it gives your photo meaning and impact, even if it's like subtle. In my opinion, it's basically the ingredients that makes people like stop scrolling, or if you're like walking, you know, what people used to do back in the day, stop walking and look at something and be like, wow, this really makes me feel something. Because everything else, composition, lighting, timing, focus, it's basically all supports the main thing, the story of the shot. Some people even go that far saying if you don't have that story ingredients dialed in, everything else just falls apart in photography. I'm not sure if I totally agree with that. Sometimes I just want to take like a picture of something that is pretty, like Iceland or whatnot. But if you want people to feel something, the story ingredients is well important. There is like no doubt about it. Now, how do you then go about finding and creating a good story? That's an excellent question. You're really smart. It's a good question. Number 1, ask yourself, what is it about this scene that excites you? So basically, I think it's important to start with yourself. What is it that made you stop? What was it about this scene, or what is this about this scene that you think is like unique or makes you feel something? Because that excitement that you're feeling, that's kind of like the seed of the story, you understand? And I know it's very easy to fall into the trap of creating something for somebody else, and at least for me, I might take a photo and thinking, oh, will this get a lot of likes? Will other people like this? If I did it this way or whatever. And it's human, you know? But I think if you can get to a place where you don't care about what other people think and you're truly creating this because you think this is exciting and this excites you, other people will resonate with that as well. And when you see that, that is like a superpower, in my opinion. Listen to yourself. I mean, I'm getting a bit poetic here, you know? Number 2, focus on emotion and or mood. Basically, you can decide what you want people to feel when they see your photos. Do you want them to feel peaceful, happy, lonely, energetic, mysterious, and all those different like emotions? And then you build your frame around that feeling that you want to generate. And then number 3, this is something that breaks sometimes, but it's good to keep in mind, and that is to look for moments and not just like cool things or places or subjects, you understand? Basically, don't just like snap a photo of a static scene, rather wait for that moment to evolve. Do you say that? Evolve. Moment to unfold. That is the English word. It could be like a gesture or a laugh or something happening within a street if you're doing street photography, or the way that the sun hits in light landscape photography. However, sometimes, of course, it's just nice to take a photo of a pretty place. These are just rules, and rules are meant to be broken. I know that is pretty gangster to say that. But what I'm trying to say here is that moments create stories. Alright, so key number 2 is really important. And it's so important, I'm going to say, that if you get this wrong, it's actually the easiest way to make your photo feel hella random. And I'm of course talking about subject, as in the main character of your photo. In my opinion, in order to create a great photo, then you have to establish some sort of a subject, because it is the main character of the photo. The story that we talked about before, it's happening to like the subject, you understand? Now, the subject can't be whatever you want it to be. If you're in the street photography, it could be a person or a building or whatever. In landscape photography, I am often using mountains or some lone tree or whatever. Basically, it is the main thing that I want people to see and focus on, and then I'm trying to isolate everything with like composition, lighting, the colors and whatnot, so that is the like main thing that people like see. And if you do not establish a subject, it is by far the easiest way to make a photo feel like incredibly just like random. I mean, when I started out, I used to like walk up, or I love hiking. So I used to go up these like big mountain tops here in Iceland. And when you're on a big mountain top, you look up and you go like, wow, everything just looks so pretty. You take your camera and just start to take photos because you think like, I have to capture this somehow. At least if you're wired like me, where you like you have this urge to capture things around you. And then you come home and you look at the photos and they just look, like they look nothing like you saw. And that is because you're just taking photos like a tourist of whatever, instead of like giving a hard look and thinking like, okay, what is the subject there? And maybe if you're a little bit ninja with it, you thought also about what type of story is there? How do I want this photo to feel? Then you go to the subject and be like, okay, there is the subject. And now I'm gonna try to like compose it and do all the other cool things or good things that make and builds a great photo. Now, key number 3 is also very important. I mean, it's not life and death situation, but in order to create a good photo, it is insanely important, and that is, of course, composition. Basically, what composition is, it's the art of how you frame and organize everything in the shot so your viewer instantly understands what's important and what's not. Basically, composition is like the visual language of your photo, because it guides the viewer's eyes exactly to the place in the photos where you want them to be, and helps communicates your story like clearly and with more impact. Now, how do you then compose good photos and then actually get better at composition? It's a pretty deep subject and there's a lot that goes into it. But my friend, I'm here to try to simplify things for you so you can go out and be like, oh, I'm creating some sick ass photo. Now, to start with, when it comes to the world of composition, is to understand that there are a ton of different rules that you can like learn and apply to your photos to make them better. I'm going to dive into a few of them and talk about a few of my favorites. But before I do that, then let's just quickly take a look at what like the word rule actually means. So a rule, according to the English dictionary, means a guiding principle or instruction that tells you what you should or like shouldn't do in certain situation. Did you catch that important word there? Guiding. I think it's well important to understand that just because we say this is a rule, it does not mean that if you do not follow this rigidly exactly, we talk about the rule of thirds, you don't do the rule of thirds, and the SWAT team will come here and be like, you did not follow the rule of thirds. Nothing like that will happen. These are just guiding principles to help us in composing our photos. But it's well important to understand these rules, because if you do, you can apply them to your photos with much greater impact, because you know what you're doing, you know? Now, I actually made a free 30-day email series with one short tip a day where we're diving into the fundamentals of composition. We also talk about lighting and like how to make your photo stand out with colors, but it's like totally free and one short email a day, and you can find it in the description down below. Anyway, a few composition rules to understand, and are definitely one of my favorites, is of course, like to begin with, the one that is like most understand, the most overused, and the rule of thirds. Now, I know that you've heard the rule of thirds, but I encourage you to revisit these rules, even the most basic rules every now and then, because you will figure out some new things about it, and I can guarantee and prove it to you. I'll tell you a story in a second. But what the rule of thirds is, you're like splitting up the frame in these like grid lines, and you just place your subject on 1/3, whether it's on the side or the bottom. And this way you're making your photos a lot more dynamic in a very simple way. Now, I run an online community for photographers, and one thing that we do every single month is a photo challenge, where we focus on one thing, and then for the entire month we have a little composition trying to come up with the best photo for like exactly the thing that we're focusing on. And a few months ago we were focused on the rule of thirds, which meant that I was going out and using this like old and overused composition rule, and it was really fun because I was thinking about it all the time, and I started to take photos where either I saw a foreground that I thought looked really, really good. So then I placed the subject on the top and the foreground there, and it just created a photo that slapped. Or vice versa, the sky was really cool, or I just wanted to have more negative space in the sky. I placed the subject on the lower half, on the lower third, and then we had a lot of negative space in the top there. Like, one person that is incredibly good at the rule of thirds is my friend Mats Peter Iversen. Like, just take a look at this photo, especially with the Danish trees. It's the rule of thirds all over the place, and they just look so pristine and so nice. So that is a rule that I think is absolutely fantastic. And by the way, if you're interested in joining my photo community, we have a ton going on, and you get access to all of my digital products, all of my courses, the Lightroom Masterclass, and a lot of access to me, plus a whole space about feedback and whatnot. And feedback is very important if you want to like become better at photography. Then you can find more information in the description down below. But another rule that I think is really fun is, of course, leading lines. Now, leading line is basically just a line. It can be a natural line within the landscape, especially when I'm using landscape photography. You can see it all the time in my style of photos that I'm using roads, leading up to a subject. So they help guide the viewer's eyes to a specific subject, and they are incredibly fun to look for. And the more that you look for them and the more that you practice seeing them, the more they start to show up. It's like, you know, when you want to buy a car or you're thinking about buying a specific type of car and you're looking at it online, and all of a sudden you see that car all over the place because your mind has been thinking about it and now you see it. And the same thing I think for like finding leading lines and just basically any type of rule that we're going to dive into. Like the more you look for it, the more you practice, and that's why I think it's so important to visit these often, because you get better by doing. Another one I think is incredibly fun is looking for symmetry. And by the way, I've been filming here for like an hour, and when we started the video it was really sunny, and now we're getting the clouds came in all of a sudden, plus it's soon midnight, but we're in Iceland, so it's sunny almost all day, it's summertime. Anyway, looking for symmetry is incredibly fun in natural landscape. And English is sometimes hard for me, but personally, I love to see it with reflections on water. And there, I tend to go for center frame a lot. And centering your subject, like putting the subject dead center, is definitely legit. But I often feel like this is something that beginners use more because it feels very safe and predictable. Now, I'm not saying like you shouldn't do it, I do it a ton, but if you don't have a good reflection or something that is supporting your decision in placing the subject in dead center, then going for the rule of thirds might be a better option. Notice I said might. It's up to you to decide when you're at this spot, and there are so many variables. But I often think this, at least when I'm out shooting, but when you have like some massive symmetry, you have like the subject in the center and there's like incredibly beautiful like reflections, or you have a road that's splitting the trees in half. So you've seen these like winter shots where you have the trees on both sides and there's symmetry in both directions. Oh, that is just fantastic. So symmetry is another one that I like a lot. Another one that you can think about is like finding natural frames in your frame. So you're looking for like tree branches that create a frame, or like arches in bridge that create some good, beautiful frames. This is incredibly fun, and you can like really create like frames within a frame. So one person who's really good at this is like John within my like photo community, the darkroom. He's been shooting since in the 70s, and I'm constantly seeing him shooting these, like finding these natural frames in the landscape where he lives, and it's really fun. So John, if you're watching, good job. Now there are a bunch of other rules that you can dive into. For instance, negative space is incredibly powerful and really fun. It's really fun if you go for that like minimalistic type of photography, because then you're just like really finding a subject, finding a story, and placing a subject and saying, look, this is what matters and nothing else. And it's pretty bold, but if you can pull it off, it looks really, really, really pretty. And you have tons of negative space around, and yeah, that is just fantastic. But no matter what rule that you're trying and going into, my biggest tip for you is to put your mind to it, practice them a lot, revisit them, understand the rules from all angles, because you've been trying them so much, and then you just can break them or you can combine them, and you can figure out, like, use them as guidelines for your photography. All right, so key number 4 comes after you know how you want the people to feel, what like you are actually showing, and how you like to frame it. And that, my friend, is lighting. Because light is what truly brings your story and composition to life. Because light, it shapes the subject, it sets the mood, and it adds that beautiful depth. And you know, it can make a feel scene like dramatic, soft, mysterious, or energetic. Basically, photography means like painting with light, and light is everything when it comes to photography. So my friend, learning how to use it, whether it's natural or artificial, is essential in order to create like the photos that you're truly proud of. I cannot stress this enough, all right? And it's by far one of the most powerful skills that you can have in your arsenal as a photographer. Now, how do you then get better at lighting? Well, as with everything when it comes to photography, just everything in life, the more you practice, the better you will become. One thing that really helped me, and I remember, this is so silly thinking about it that I didn't understand this back in the day, but I remember vividly when I started to understand, oh yes, of course, it matters in what direction the sun is coming from. Like you have front lit when the sun or just artificial light is dead front on your subject, then you have side lit and you have backlit and you have like the entire circle around. For instance, when I've been filming this video, the sun was there, now it's not, but then I'm placing myself so I wasn't like front lit. You noticed it before, I placed myself so the sun gave a little bit of shadow because it adds more depth to my features, which I think is pretty. Instead of I've had like dead center to the sun, then I would be front lit, and I don't think that looks as good when it comes to portraits. You understand? Also understanding the quality of the light. Is it harsh light, which is when we had the before when we started this video, like hard midday sun? It's not maybe ideal for those beautiful, flattering, soft like portrait photos because the light is really, really hard. Now, is it bad? I don't think things are good or bad. It's just different. You have to learn how to use that. For hard sunlight or hard light scenes, you need to like lean into it by going for like using those contrasts which that brings. Then you have soft light. At the moment right now we have really, really soft light. The sun is down, we have clouds over us, which acts as a big softbox. If you're in the studio where I am often, you can see me having the big softbox, and that creates very soft light which spreads out and creates even light. There's no direct hard shadows. You can see the scene we're in right now, there are no hard shadows. So that is the quality of the light. And for when it's soft, then portrait photography is like fantastic. Now, I'm not that big of a portrait photographer, but for landscape photography, this means that I don't have these like dramatic shadows that I can work with, but we usually have big clouds. And in post-production, like photo editing, we can really draw out that moodiness out of it. But understanding light, in what direction it's coming from, the quality of the light, and how you can use it to your advantage is an essential key to understand if you want to become a great photographer, which I know you want to be, else you wouldn't be watching this video, you know? All right, so key number 5, my friend, is a crucial ingredient in great photos, with a rolling R, of course, great photos. And that is, of course, timing. Basically, it means waiting for or creating that perfect moment to capture real emotion, energy, and drama. With other words, this is all about when you decide to press that shutter button. And you know, the exact right moment is what brings your photo to life. And like, split of a second or a second here and there, that's what like differentiate a fantastic photographer and a good photographer. You understand? It's like how you're able to capture that perfect moment, and that is timing. That could mean when you're out in the street and you're waiting for the like exact right person to walk in the frame. Maybe it has the exact like color of the jacket that you want, or wearing the exact color of the umbrella or whatnot, or waiting for the exact moment the sun hits like your subject. For instance, this photo right here, I waited with the drone there quite a long time for it to like light up exactly where you can see that red car, which I'm sitting in. Because this photo right here is from the exact same place, just like 2 kilometers out, and you can see the little road there. That's the road that you saw in the previous photo. And as you can see, it is like very, very, very cloudy, but we have sun moving through. You can see that in the photo there in this distance, that we have sun patches coming through. And I was waiting for one of them sun patches with the drone up there just above me for one of the sun patches to hit the drone, hit the subject where I'm sitting in the car, and bam, then I snapped the photo. And that is all about timing. Basically, in my opinion, a good timing, or good timing, I'd say, it's not a good timing. English lecture for you right there. But good timing is what turns a good photo into a memorable one that people like actually remember and feel something. Now, how do you then practice timing and get good at timing? Well, I'm happy that you asked. I have a few things like in my head that I'm going to share with you. So first thing that you can do is to anticipate and not just react. So what does that mean? Basically, you can train yourself to watch for patterns and cues. If you're a sport photographer, you can like know when you get the perfect stride of a runner, you understand? Or if you're a portrait photographer, you know maybe what you can do, or when the like smile is the most beautiful, or when the eyes light up. Or if you're a landscape photographer, which is the best type of photo, it's not the best type of, it is the best type. Now, it's my favorite type, and a street photography too. Then you can just know in what situation you can get photos where you have dramatic sky, but you know that there will come a sun patch through, which will light up your subject, which looks absolutely fantastic. Or you can see these clouds and you can see in what direction they move, and you know that, okay, if I just place myself here, I know that they're moving over there and we get much like more epic, dramatic clouds. Or if you're photographing water and it's not totally even, it's a little bit windy. Usually what you can do, you can wait a little bit because wind isn't like constant. It usually comes and then it calms down and you get a few seconds of break. That's usually when the water becomes a little bit more calm, and it always happens. Then clang, you get like much more reflection, which you wouldn't have got otherwise, and that is timing. Now, number 2 that you can do to become better at timing is to shoot in burst mode, but with intention. Now, I like often just shooting one photo at a time. There is something about that feeling of just clicking one photo, and I feel a little bit more in the moment when I do that. But when I'm photographing waves or something that has like high speed, I like the burst mode because then you can just go like, and it's much easier to capture one genuine moment. And I think this is crucial for a wildlife and sport photographer with like good like burst mode, because then you get that one photo which was the moment was absolutely right. So that is one thing to keep in mind as well. And then number 3, and this is a bit boring advice for like all of you impatient viewers out there, that is to practice patience. Because, and I feel like your mother now, sometimes the like best moments, they don't really happen right away. I know we would like that to be that way, but it isn't. For instance, my friend Ulle, he is a wildlife photographer, and him is like waiting in the hide for fucking like hours, 8 hours at a time, and it's absolutely crazy. He had these bear photos where he photographed bears, and he was in the hide for 12 hours plus. I could not do that. I don't have that amount of patience. I have patience, but not Ulle's amount of patience, you know. But that is something that is required if you want to capture and be good at good timing. Now, key number 6, and I know some of you will think like, finally he's talking about this, and that is a focus. Basically, my friends, this is the technical execution that defines what's the most important in your frame and guides the viewer's attention exactly to where you want it. Kind of like everything else, but here you're using the focus to do it, you know? Because focus, it controls what in your photos are like tech sharp and what's soft. With other words, my friend, it can emphasize your subject, add depth, and help tell your story in a more detailed and an intimate way. Kind of like if me and you were a little bit intimate. So when you focus intentionally, you're not just showing your subject, but you're showing the viewer exactly what they should care about. And this is where depth of field becomes really, really fun, and the choice of lenses become really, really fun. Like you want a shallow depth of field, then with that you can create very dreamy look, or you want to have like more like f16 or f11, very popular for landscape photography, when you get everything in focus or whatnot. Or you can add layers to the photo as well, you understand? And that is also something that is incredibly good to understand, is that photos, you have foreground, middle ground, and background. So you can think of photos in layers, and that adds a ton of depth to your shots once you start to do that. Little bonus tip here. And then key number 7 is colors. Now, colors is a very deep subject, and it's also incredibly important in order to create like epic and good photos that you're truly proud of. Now, we could go very deep on it, and we can take another 20-30 minutes just to dive into colors. So I'm just going to keep this very, very brief and simple, and hope that you forgive me for that. But basically, my best tip that I can give for you when it comes to color and color theory in general is to keep things simple. The very easy way for photos to feel very, very like too much is just to have way too many colors compete for the attention. So what I try to do, I try to have my photos with just simple color scheme. I try to have like maybe one primary color, and then I have like one complementary color and maybe one color of the subject. So I have like 1, 2, 3 colors in the photo itself. Now, when it comes to color theory in general, there are a lot of different rules as well. Just like with the composition, you have like complementary colors, which is on the opposite side of the spectrum. So add a lot of contrast and really good for that drama. You have analogous colors, which are like on the same spot, which are really good for creating those like harmonious and soft like looking photos. And then you also, of course, have monochromatic color scheme, which are all on the same exact color, just different hues of it. And there are like a ton more, and understanding these is well important. And then also another thing that is good to know is understanding what like colors communicate and how colors make people feel. And that is like a whole science in itself. It's something that I recommended you like read up on once you're finished with that. But just keep it simple. Don't go out and have like 1,000 colors in the photo, or have like two like bold, strong colors, like 50-50. It makes it a little bit of a color war. Instead, have like one dominant color, and then you have some colors that are supporting with it. That, once I started to do that, and just playing with that little thing, it instantly made my photos so much better. Now, most photographers, they just stop here. But my friend, that is actually a huge mistake, because all of this, what we just talked about, won't fully click until you understood what we're diving into in this video right here.